Diving deeper into the ground level achievements of the Safe Labour Migration Program. Our discussion will focus on the lessons learned, the challenges faced, and the way forward as we continue our efforts to improve the lives of migrant workers. As I now read out the names of our panelists, I'd like them to come up and please join me on stage. We'd like to get started by inviting Additional General Manager, International Affairs at the Sri Lanka Bureau of Foreign Employment, Mr. Senarath Yapa. Let's put our hands together for him. Joining us up next, we have General Secretary of the National Trade Union Federation, Mr. Padmasiri Ranavaka Arachi. A warm welcome to you. Up next, we'd like to warmly invite Ms. Viola Pereira, President of the Action Network for Migration Workers. Let's give her a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. We're also happy to be joined by Ms. Avishka Kapugikiana. She's from Helvetas Swiss Intercorporation. A warm welcome to you as well. Let's put our hands together for our panelists as they join us up. Our final panelist is Ms. Chetana Disanaika. She is Foreign Employment Development Coordinator at the Ministry of Labour. So a warm welcome to you as well. With that being said, I'd also like to now invite our moderator for this session. Our moderator will be Ms. Amrita Muttaya. She is National Program Officer at the International Organization for Migration. And I now leave the discussion in her safe hands as we dive deeper into this topic. So with that being said, Amrita, it's over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, panelists, and also partners. Welcome to the second panel discussion for the day. The previous moderator was able to get some insights onto their hobbies of the panelists from the previous panel. Unfortunately, I did not have time, but something which I can vouch today is that my panelists are dedicated and passionate about migration, the subject of migration, and they're very much supportive of promoting regular migratory pathways. So on that note, we have a very diverse background of stakeholders here today. We have the government, we have the civil society, and also the trade union. So in this panel, I think we saw from the video as well, some of the information or key highlights we want to bring is about social protection measures, the importance of financial literacy, community resilience, gender considerations, and advocacy for migrant workers' rights. Some guidelines for the panel discussion, since we are running out of time. I will be posing one question each from each of the panelists, and following which let's try to stick to 5 minutes or less with your interventions, and I doubt we can open it up for an open forum discussion, but the idea here is to ensure that we appreciate the work of our stakeholders through this SLMP and to highlight the interventions they have made as part of this program. On that note, my first question is for you, Mr. Yapa. I mean, SLBFE does a lot of work with regard to pre-departure orientation, to skills development, to ethical recruitment. And one important area is social mechanisms, looking at social protection of migrant workers. I mean, we often inform Sri Lankans, we always tell them to take safe and regular migratory pathways, and which we say that it will enable migrant workers to be entitled for an insurance scheme. How does this insurance scheme works in reality? And what is the role of the Bureau in this process?
Thank you, Ms. Amrita. As you all know, one of the key objectives of the establishment of Sri Lanka Bureau of Foreign Employment by its Act number 21 of 1985 is to protect the rights of migrant workers and to ensure the welfare and well-being of the migrant workers and their family members. This is further witnessed by our national policy and action plan for migration on labor and employment 2023-2027, in the core area 2 that also emphasize that the protection and welfare and well-being. So this is the, far back 1985, almost 14 years ago, our government has thought what is the importance of the rights of the migrant workers and their welfare and well-being. So in line with this social protection, if you look at, there are several measures that the government has been taken, and the legal pathways under this act is to get the bureau registration, Foreign Employment Bureau registration. It is a legal requirement, it is the legal pathway. So anyone who get this legal pathway or get the registration of the bureau is entitled for an insurance. It's free of charge, and that has a range of benefit, not only from the repatriation and look after their at the safe houses and so on and so forth, but the compensation for their, unfortunate incident for the dismissal of the life as well. So this is one aspect in terms of the social security systems we do have. And also, we do have another insurance scheme for the domestic sector workers who are most vulnerable and who are leaving for the foreign employment in the Middle Eastern countries. This segment is female domestic sector workers, and this insurance scheme is employer paid insurance scheme. But of course now we are reviewing the benefits of this again. But these two insurance schemes we do have. And those who are not covered under this insurance scheme, we have a special arrangement that is called Workers' Welfare Fund. Again, we do have two options. One is local insurance, workers' welfare fund. The other one is the overseas workers' welfare fund. Roughly, we are paying 1 billion rupees for this total expenses out of the overseas workers' welfare fund annually, because those who are working are facing numerous, the hardship. As our previous, the migrant worker explained, it's not a smooth running in the, the entire migration cycle. So while they are working in abroad, if they face any consequence, any problem, so we are there to look after them. As Madam Padmini said previously, we are maintaining 15 employment and welfare sections in our missions. So all the expenses under this, we are paying out of the Workers' Welfare Fund. And also those who are not covered under the insurance, we are paying their expenses locally under the Local Welfare Fund. And as per the Bureau Act, 10% of our total income should be transferred to the Local Welfare Fund to meet these expenses. So these are the basic, the arrangement that we have in terms of the social protection. But beyond that, we as a government have negotiated many BLAs to cover, to get the maximum benefit or the rather social security system when they are working in those countries. Mostly the formal sector are covered under this insurance benefit. If you look at all the countries that we are sending people to the Middle East, we are having almost all countries the BLAs. And of course, I am proud to say that we are now reviewing this BLA, especially with the assistance of ILO, because they are coming into the scene, and now we are analyzing what are the gaps there. Not only that, we are discussing how we can sign the ILO convention related to the migration, because sad to say we have not ratified any ILO convention related to migration, but that gap analysis is right now doing, because our prime objective is how to get into the maximum benefit, the social benefit that their nationals are enjoying as well to our country, because equal treatment are mostly recognized all the labor receiving countries. These are the one salient, the development recently we had under this project. And also, if you look at the reintegration part, in line with the sub-policy 2015, return and reintegration sub-policy, the Bureau has made several arrangements to economically empower our returnees. As Mr. Khan previously said, multi-purpose loan that is in place. We have made 500 million allocation for this purpose, and it is very actively running at the moment. Not only that, we have another arrangement to the self-employment. We are giving a financial grant, not the loan. Earlier it was 50,000, now it increased up to 100,000. So we are having that in place. So anyone want to get the return, you want to get the self-employment, not only return, if someone is while in working, their relatives would like to start a self-employment, we are there to assist them. And also the entrepreneur developmentship. This is a very unique, program. We give financial support up to 2 million. So we are going to select maximum 5 from each divisional secretariat. and we do have 300 odd additional secretariats. So we want to have a minimum, giving 2 million rupees to upgrade the business plan as entrepreneurs. So these are some of the developments in terms of economical empower and social protection system. But as previous panelists said, there are a lot of room to be improved in terms of the social security system. And as a government, we are getting maximum out, projects to meet it. But again, we all are here have an equal responsibility to give their ideas, supports, and all other things. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Yapa, for that comprehensive answer of what the SLBF is currently doing and how, we could all improve ourselves. I mean, as you said, it's not only a responsibility of the government. We all in this room here as stakeholders have an important role to play. In fact, now we have the national policy as well, and we have the return and reintegration policy as well. So it's up to us to look into the implementation of these policies. And also, as you also mentioned, the G2G agreements and also the MOUs, how you all are capacitating your government stakeholders as well to look at this social protection angle. On that note, just one follow-up question, Mr. Yapa. How do you see government, with regard to the G2G agreements and MOUs, how do you see your streamlining social protection practices of these migrant workers into these agreements?
Well, Amrita, now we have two main recruitment MOUs, or rather one agreement with Israel and South Korea. So the South Korea agreement under the EPS system far back 2000, we started in 2004. Up to now, it's been operated very well. And the important thing is our government has signed an MOU with the South Korean government to get their national pension scheme benefit to our migrant workers as well. So now our workers are treated as the South Korean national under that scheme, because that is a huge achievement in terms of sending Sri Lankan workers to South Korea and intervention of the government. Unless our government was involved in that, we are unable to get that side. But now our Sri Lankans who are going South Korea are getting this national insurance benefit when they return to Sri Lanka. And also Israel, they are also giving equal rights to, in terms of the social security, our workers. Because by entering this G2G agreement, our government intention is to promote decent work plus to get the equal treatment that their nationals are getting, our nationals as well. So I think the G2G agreements are more successful, and we have been sending a quite large number to these countries where we are having more benefits. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Yapa, for that insights. Just moving on this topic, regular migration pathways. And creating awareness in this regard is very important. While we also promote regular migration pathways, there are also other aspects we look into with regard to financial literacy as well. So on that note, my next question is to Avishka. So most of these migrant workers, they depart Sri Lanka due to heavy debt recovery to seek economic stability. So as a Swiss NGO operating in Sri Lanka, how does Helvetas assist both men and women migrants and their families to have improved saving skills and financial literacy? So why this question particularly is that we heard from one of the migrant workers here. He said the remittances or the money he was able to earn, he was able to educate his kids, his children, and his family. So on that note, how do you think this financial literacy is important? And in this angle, what has Helvetas done to streamline this process?
Yes, thank you for your question, Amrita. And before I get into the nitty-gritties of what Helvetas has done to improve migrant workers' financial literacy skills, I'd like to focus a little bit on why this was considered a necessity. So as it has been reiterated here many times since the morning, labor migration is seen as a viable livelihood strategy for both skilled and unskilled migrant workers. And they see it as a path to economic development. And I think even the testament of our migrant worker testifies to that. So, as you mentioned, however, many migrants actually, when they leave the country, they are already in debt or they live in severe economic circumstances. And they're already burdened by debt. And while their migrant workers' remittances significantly contribute to Sri Lanka's economy, it is often the case that they themselves, when they return, they find that their economic conditions have either remained the same or it has worsened. And what we've observed is that much of the time this is due to the fact that their remittances are consumed as opposed to being invested productively. And this also causes this inability to reach their financial goals, which then also causes significant psychosocial distress and also pushes them into this constant cycle of remigration. So the importance of ensuring that migrant workers are aware of and have developed financial literacy skills was recognized at the very early stages of the Safe Labour Migration Program. And one of the key objectives of Phase 2 was that migrant workers and their families have improved economic conditions through productive remittance management. And one of the first steps to achieving that, Helvetas developed this financial literacy training manual that was both accessible and relatable to migrant workers, and it could be tailored to their individual circumstances. For example, which part of the migration cycle they were in. And this manual also covered key areas such as financial planning, budgeting and remittance management, remittance transfer systems, as well as how to identify and access financial products such as investments, loans, savings that were appropriate to their individual requirements and their individual financial goals. And following this, the Foreign Employment Development Officers as well as other officials linked to the migration cycle, such as the Samurdhi officials, as well as civil society partners, they were trained using this financial literacy manual so that they in turn could provide guidance to migrant workers on how to manage their remittances effectively. And of course we know that sound financial management is not something that can be achieved overnight. It's a behavioral change that requires a long time. So migrant workers were not just given these one-off trainings, but they were also consistently followed up with and given consistent follow-up coaching and support from these actors at the grassroots level. And in the third phase, this financial literacy manual was also used to train the pre-departure instructors of the Sri Lanka Bureau of Foreign Employment. And this manual was actually institutionalized into the pre-departure training program for migrant workers. And in the final phase of SLMP, the Foreign Employment Development Officers attached to the Training of Trainer unit of the Ministry of Foreign Employment, as well as local resources in CSOs and trade unions, also encountered this financial literacy training as part of their training package. And through these approaches, that is to say, initially developing a sound resource that could also be adapted, as well as through training local resource pools at the divisional level, for example, the Foreign Employment Development Officers, the CSOs, the trade unions, and finally through ensuring that these resources and trainings were institutionalized, Helvetas actually managed to ensure the long-term sustainability and local routing of this knowledge, and that there would be multiple sources of coverage where migrant workers could learn to improve their financial literacy and engage in more productive remittance management.
Thank you so much, Avishka, for highlighting the work of Helvetas. Just to also add to what you were saying, it was interesting actually to see how from the design stage itself that they've thought about financial literacy. Sometimes we come into the project implementation stage and we think about, oh no, financial literacy is one of the important stages. But here we can see from the design itself, you all thought about how important financial literacy is for our aspirant migrant workers. And also it's interesting to see how the manual has been integrated into the program of the pre-departure orientation of the SLBFE. And as our distinguished guest said in the morning, we hope that this work continues, even though the project comes to an end, even though it's a closure, still it's more of a seed where we have put in, and we are hoping that it'll grow further and we can continue the work. And something which I want to highlight is that I have come across migrant workers where I have spoken to some migrant workers who have returned back. They would say that I am going back again into foreign employment, like a circular migration, because I did not save enough. But I've also come across migrant workers like that sir who was speaking, of who have, very smartly utilized their savings. So it's two schools of thought. I think it's how each individual also foresees, and also it's also important to create that awareness and educate, particularly in the grassroots levels, on financial literacy. Moving to the next question, Chetana, this is for you. In the audience, as part of the panel, we also had a question on social cost. On that regard, Chetana, we know both migrant workers, female and male migrant workers, they play an important role in the lives of a child. Whether it's a mother or the father, they both play an important role in a child's life. But there is a common belief in Sri Lanka that children become vulnerable when mothers depart for foreign jobs abroad. This is, common understanding, among the people. So this thinking is not the same when fathers migrate abroad. As a development officer attached to the Foreign Employment Ministry, how do you assist mothers who are intending to depart for foreign jobs?
Thank you, Ms. Ambri.
Sure, yes.
මෙහෙමයි දරුවෙක්ගේ පෞරුෂය වර්ධනයට මව සහ පියා කියන දෙන්නම ඉතා වැදගත් වෙනවා. ඒකෙදි මම අදහස් කරන විදිහට ඔබතුමිය අදහස් කරපු විදිහට දරුවාගේ ඒ කියන්නේ දැන් කාන්තාවක් අම්මා විදේශගත වුණාම තමයි දරුවා අපචාරයන්ට ලක් වෙන්නේ සහ දරුවා මෙතන මැද පෙරදිග කියන එක විශේෂයි. අපචාරයන්ට ලක් වෙනවා කියනවා ඉගෙන ගන්න එක අඩු වෙනවා කියනවා. ඒක බොහෝ වෙලාවට කාන්තාවක් විදේශගත වුණාම විතරයි ඔය ප්‍රශ්නේ අපිට බහුතරයක් අපිට හම්බ වෙන්නේ. නමුත් කාන්තාවන් විදේශගත වුණාම පමණක් නෙවෙයි බොහෝ වෙලාවට අම්මලා තාත්තලා ඉන්න දරුවන්ටත් ඔය දෙම වෙනවා. මේකෙදි තාත්තා කියන චරිතයක් ගොඩක් වැදගත් භූමිකාවක්. මොකද දරුවෙක්ට තාත්තා ඕනේ. මොකද අපි අවුරුදු 12ක විතර වගේ දරුවෙක්ට අපිට පුළුවන් අම්මට කන්ට්‍රෝල් කරගන්න දරුවා පාලනය කරගන්න පුළුවන්. එතනින් එහා දරුවෙක්ට ඒක තාම මේක පීතෘ මූලික සමාජයක්, බහු ආගමිකයන් ඉන්න රටක්. එතකොට තාත්තාගේ වගකීම, තාත්තාගේ භූමිකාවට තාත්තා කියන කෙනත් ඉන්න ඕනේ. එතකොට නිලධාරීන් විදිහට අපි ෆැමිලි බෑග්ග්‍රවුන්ඩ් රිපෝට් එකක් ලබා දෙනවා. එතකොට ඒ ෆැමිලි බෑග්ග්‍රවුන්ඩ් රිපෝට් එකේදී අපි නිරන්තරයෙන් පසුවිපරම් කිරීමක් සිදු කරනවා. මේ දරුවාගේ බාරකරු කවුද, දරුවාට රැකවරණ සපයන්නා කවුද සහ පසුවිපරම් කිරීම නිරන්තරයෙන්ම සිදු වෙනවා. අත්‍යවශ්‍ය අවස්ථාවන් වලදී උපදේශන සේවාවන් සපයනවා සහ අපි දෙනවා ෆැමිලි ඩෙවලොප්මන්ට් ප්ලෑන් එකක් කියලා අපි හදනවා. අවශ්‍ය අවස්ථාවන් වලදී අවධානය වැඩියෙන් යොමු කරන්න අවස්ථාවන් වලදී අපි ඒක කරනවා. ඒ වගේ අවස්ථාවලදී මැදිහත් වීම වෙනවා, උපදේශනය අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම සපයනවා සහ මෙතුමිය කිව්වා වගේම ෆයිනෑන්ෂල් ඩෙවලොප්මන්ට් කියන පැත්තටත් අවශ්‍ය උපදේශන සේවාවන් අදාළ නිලධාරීන් හරහා යොමු කිරීම සිදු කරනවා.
Thank you, Chetana. Just to summarize what she said, as development officers, they take a lot of pride in speaking to the migrant workers and educating the migrant workers, prior to leaving the country. And what she says is how much it is important for a mother to play an important role in a child's life. It's it's the same and equal for a male also to play an important role in a child's life. And also as development officers, they encourage this scenario, and also they educate these migrant workers prior to leaving the country. And with regard to the family background report in the country, and once they have a family background report, they collect data on who are the people who leave the country, and what they also do is they follow up with the, the guardians who these children are left with. So sometimes we do not appreciate the work of the development officers in the field. We mostly look at the national level, the technical level we look at, and unfortunately, we do not appreciate the work the development officers do, because they are the ones who are in the field, who are speaking directly to the migrant workers, and we really need to appreciate humbly the impact they make on each and every migrant worker. And thank you, Ms. Chetana, for sharing this information, and I hope we continue this work on educating these migrant workers. My next question is to Mr. Patmasiri. This is with regard to the trade unions. Over the past years, there was a gap between the trade union and migrant worker unions in Sri Lanka. How has this SLMP helped trade unions to voice for migrant worker rights and other social protection measures, and it will sustain for the future?
First of all, let me thank on behalf of the trade unions for giving this opportunity. If I answer the first part of the question, yes, definitely this safe labor migration program has helped trade unions immensely. Well, this was started in 2010, and of course now we are in the fourth phase. My senior colleague who is seated there in the audience, Brother Leslie Devendra, he has been involved in this migration work even before that. He was involved in 2008 at the time the government was developing the Sri Lanka migration policy. So I wish to thank and appreciate the role played by the ILO as well as the Swiss Embassy, the Swiss Agency for Development Cooperation, for getting all these stakeholders together in developing this program. And as it is mentioned, it's a journey of transformation. What I believe is, like, it was not producing a plan at the end of the day, but it has been a planning process where all stakeholders got involved and contributed and raised the sort of say standards of migrant workers in the country. So then I should mention, especially from the ILO, Mr. Nishant, and from Swiss Embassy, Ms. Rangita, for their excellent contribution. And also, like, Helvitas, of course, played a very significant role. As I mentioned, this SLMP has recognized that trade unions can play a big role in this area, because even in our DWCP program, Decent Work Country program, which was developed in 2018, under outcome 3.2, we have discussed the migrant workers issues. But unlike in other areas, trade unions could play only a limited role in this area because due to certain limitations, like getting trade unions recognized at the Ministry of Labor, and to have the access to the migrant workers as well as the employers, especially who are overseas, and the people, if they are working in household, of course, getting in touch with each and every individual householder, it's not an easy thing. But at this forum, when we meet all stakeholders, like, we were able to see the big picture. We discuss the issues faced by each and every stakeholder, and we try to find a solution together. And very especially in the final stage, the TOT programs conducted by the Helvitas, and as well as the final document, the training handbook, I think it has produced like excellent results because even at the time of developing these TOT programs and as well as the handbook, all stakeholders were involved. So we were able to see the big picture, the macro situation. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, Sri Lankan trade unions are playing a very limited role in this area. There may be different perceptions, like different interpretation, but whatever it is, Sri Lankan trade unions have been contributing immensely for the social dialogue and maintaining or safeguarding the workers' right in Sri Lanka in all areas. And National Trade Union Federation and Sri Lanka Nidahas Seva Sangame and Ceylon Workers Congress. Three of us are members of South Asian Regional Trade Union Council, where they have been working a lot in these migrant workers, and of course we were able to take up these measures at that level, the regional and international level, where they were trying to organize the destination countries' involvement. So I am happy that this entire process has recognized the role of trade unions in this area, and of course we should appreciate the role of civil society organization. Of course they have been doing a wonderful job in that area. I should appreciate that. I think the most important part of this question, like I can elaborate much on these achievements, but I just thought of like discussing the big picture. But the most important aspect is like whether it will sustain in the future. So that is the most important, because it's very, very challenging. Because we have had a lot of bad experience. I think this project alone comes to billions of rupees. And the number of hours spent on these projects, time and energy, immense. Whether we have had similar programs in this country, have we achieved the objective results? Have we made use of those efforts at the end of the day? But I don't want to find fault with anyone. But we have to think of these things. But I don't know, I mean, in 2010, where the Sri Lankan Foreign Employment Bureau was like under which ministry. But during this period, of course, I can remember once there was a separate ministry for that institution. And last few years, of course, it was together with the Ministry of Labour and Foreign Employment. So that it made us our work easy. But I think from yesterday it was under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So these things have to be addressed really. And especially these things need to be followed up. I don't want to blame the government or institution, but traditional Sri Lankan style, like we have our ego. We would like to work only in our compartments. And I can remember when we were discussing this matter, like even in this forum, someone asked from the Department of Census whether we can share some information. They said no, confidentiality. And even in that process, of course, it was held after so many years, this census. But there were not much questions to extract this information. So I think we have to set aside that ego. We need to understand the capabilities and capacity of each and everyone, all stakeholders. Each and everyone can play a very big role here. As trade unions, of course, we have a lot of experience in social dialogue and attend to this type of things. So finally, I would say like all stakeholders should respect each other, trust each other, there may be lapses on our part as well as trade unions. We should try to amend them and go forward. Right? I feel all of us are eagerly waiting how much of dollars remitted by these migrant workers to bridge the trade deficit of present 6 billion US dollars. So we are eagerly waiting for it. But are we interested in the same manner to enhance the work life of these people? I think we should forget all these differences, and if we can get together and make the life of migrant workers comfortable and peaceful, and if we can make their dreams reality, then ILO together with Swiss government has achieved their ultimate objective. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Padmasiri. As you said, this is indeed a journey of transformation, and in fact, SLMP has given the opportunity to have a collective voice where we can all work together, a collective voice to advocate for the rights of the migrant workers. And sometimes it's always good to see the bright side of things as well, and also the lessons learned. I'm picking up from the last point you said, we all have a long way to go. And trade union, even though you all have played a limited role, you believe that you all have a bigger role to play in the future. I mean, that is where we come in. This is indeed a good start. This is where we see ourselves coming together for the betterment of the country and for the betterment of the migration sector. On that note, the last question, since we are running out of time, I was given half an hour to do this panel discussion. So the last question to you, Ms. Weil. This is with regard to female migrant workers. So we see a lot of female migrant workers leaving the country, but before that, in Sri Lanka itself, unfortunately, the female labor force is reducing. And the current trend is that many female migrant workers, they have the necessary skills and qualifications. Unfortunately, even though they are at a professional level, they sometimes go for lower skilled or semi-skilled jobs. What are your thoughts on this, Ms. Weiler, and how do you think, as civil society organizations, you all can change this mindset, and also promoting regular migration pathways and ensuring that migrant workers, the skills are matched correctly and they are, sent for suitable job opportunities abroad? Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Albrita. මම හිතන්නේ බොහොම ස්තුතියි SDC එකට මේ අවස්ථාව ලබා දුන්නට පැනල් එකේ ඒ වගේම ස්පෙෂලි තැන්ක්ස් for රන්දිතා. මම සිංහලෙන් තමයි කතා කරන්න යන්නේ. මට හිතෙන්නේ ඇත්තටම මේ මයිග්‍රේෂන් ඉෂුව එක ගත්තාම මට කැමති පොඩි හැඳින්වීමක් කරන්න මේකෙදි විශේෂයෙන්ම අපි අවධානය යොමු කරන්න ඕනේ. හැබැයි කාන්තාවන් ගොඩක් අවිධිමත් ශේෂ්ත්‍රවල වැඩ කරනවා. උදාහරණ වශයෙන් ගත්තොත් කෘෂි කර්මාන්තයේ කුඩා කර්මාන්ත ඒ වගේ දේවල් කරගෙන යනවා. ඒත් එක්කම ස්ත්‍රීන් ගෙදර දොර වැඩ කටයුතු වල උදේ නැගිට්ටාම උදේ 4ට 5ට රාත්‍රී 12 විතර වෙනකම්ම වැඩ කරනවා. රිදි සේදීම, ළමයි පාසල් යැවීම, ගෙදර පිරිසිදු කිරීම මේ වගේ ඒවත් එක්ක මේ කියා වර්ක් වැඩ. ඇත්තටම මේ තත්ත්වය අපිට ඊටම පැහැදිලි වුණා කොවිඩ් වගේ වකවාණු වලදී, කාල වකවාණු වලදී. ඉතින් මේ කාන්තාවන්ට ඇත්තටම මේවා කොහෙවත් ගණනය වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒගොල්ලන්ට අවිධිමත් ශේෂ්ත්‍ර තුල ඒවට කොහෙවත් වරප්‍රසාද කොහෙවත් ලැයිස්තුගත වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒත් එක්කම ශ්‍රී ලංකාව තුල ස්ථාපිත වෙලා ශ්‍රී පුරුෂ සමාජභාවී භූමිකාවන් තුල වැටුප් නොලබා රැකවරණ කටයුතු මූලික වශයෙන් කාන්තාවන්ගේ වගකීම් හැටියට පිළි අරන් තියෙනවා. මෙම තීරණාත්මක කාර්යයන් ආර්ථික හා සමාජීය වශයෙන් ප්‍රමාණවත් ලෙස හඳුනාගෙනත් නැහැ. වර්තමානයේ ශ්‍රී ලංකා ආර්ථික බලකාය ඇත්තටම 44.9 කාන්තාවන් නියෝජනය කරනවා. වර්තමානයේ ආර්ථික වශයෙන් ජනගහනය 8 මිලියන 6 වෙනකොට එයින් 27ක් පිරිමි අය වෙනවා. 73ක් කාන්තාවන් වශයෙන් වෙනවා. මෙම කාන්තාවන්ගෙන් 73.3 ග්‍රාමීය ප්‍රදේශවල ජීවත් වෙන කාන්තාවෝ. එයින් 74ක් ඇත්තටම ගෘහ සේවයේ යෙදී සිටීම කැපිපෙනෙන ලක්ෂණයක්. එහි ප්‍රතිඵලයක් වශයෙන් කාන්තාවන් සැලකිය යුතු බහුද්‍රව්‍යයක් ශ්‍රම බලකායෙන් පිටිත සිටින අය. එතකොට මේ ඔවුන්ගේ පවුල් තුල වැටුප් නොලබන සත්කාර කාර්යයන්හි අගයක් ඒගොල්ලන්ට ලැබෙන්නේ නැහැ. විශේෂයෙන්ම මේ අයත් ලංකාවේ ශ්‍රම බලකායට මේ අය ඇතුළත් වෙලා නැහැ. ඉතින් දැන් ඇතරම ගොඩක් වෙලාවට මේ කෙයා වර්ක් කියන එකත් එක්ක මේ විෂයත් එක්ක ගොඩක් මම හිතන්නේ රාජ්‍යනවන සංවිධාන රාජ්‍ය ආයතනත් වැඩ කරගෙන යනවා. ඒත් ලියාපදිංචි අහුවෙලා තියෙන සුළු මට්ටමේ ලියාපදිංචියේ තියෙන ඒවා මේ ගණනයට අහුවෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒත් සුළු මට්ටමේ ඒවා මේවට අහුවෙලා නැහැ. සුදුසුකම් තියෙන අය ඉන්නවා. ඒත් ඒ ප්‍රතිපත්ති නීති හදලා නැහැ. ඒ අයට ඇත්තටම ඇතුල් වෙන්න පුළුවන් විදියට. මේ කාර්යයන් එක ගත්තහම ඇත්තටම කාන්තාවන්ගේ අයිතිවාසිකම් ආරක්ෂා කරන්න නොයෙකුත් සම්මුතීන් ලංකාව වශයෙන් අපි අත්සන් කරලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් මේ සංක්‍රමණික ක්‍රියාවලිය ගත්තහම ඔවුන්ගේ දක්ෂතා හඳුනා ගනිමින් ඔවුන්ගේ හැකියාවන් වැඩි දියුණු කරමින් වඩා උසස් රැකියාවන් සඳහා ඔවුන් යැවිය යුතුයි කියලා අපි හිතනවා. මේකේ දෙපැත්තක් තියෙනවා. පවුලේ අවශ්‍යතාවයන් මත කාන්තාවන් ගෘහ සේවය සඳහා විදේශගත වෙනවා. ඉතින් ඔවුන්ට හැකියාවන් තිබුණත් ඔවුන් අවශ්‍යතාවයේ මත පදනම් වෙමින් ඉක්මනින් මේකට යන්න සූදානම් යනවා. ඉතින් මේ ඒත් එක්කම ඒ හරහා බැඳුණු පවුල් විනාශ වීම, දරුවන් නොමග යාම සහ අනෙක් සියලු ප්‍රශ්න මූලික කරගනිමින් මේ සැබෑ ඒ කාන්තාවන්ට සමාජය තුල ගොඩක් ගැරහුමට ලක් වෙන්න වෙනවා. හැබැයි මට මෙතනදී කියන්න කැමතියි දැන් අම්මා ගෙදර රට යන්නේ ගෙදර බර කරට අරගෙන නම්. එතකොට තාත්තගේ වගකීම තරම අපි කාන්තා අයිතිවාසිකම් ගැන කතා කරනකොට පියෙකුගේ වගකීම ගැන මේ සමාජය කතා කරන්නේ නැහැ කොතනකවත්. ඉතින් මේවා ඇත්තටම කනගාටුදායක කාරණා. ඉතින් ඒත් එක්කම මේ සංක්‍රමණික දැන් අපේ රටේ යුද්ධයක් පැවතිලා තියෙනවා. ඒ යුද්ධය එක්ක ආශ්‍රිතව ගත්තහම ගොඩක් ස්ත්‍රී මූලික පවුල් තියෙනවා. මේ පවුල් වල කාන්තාව ගොඩ දෙනෙක් ඇත්තටම ඒගොල්ලන්ට ආදායම් මාර්ග නැති නිසා ඒගොල්ලන් විදේශගත වෙන්න පෙළඹෙනවා. එතකොට ඒ ස්ත්‍රී මූලික පවුලුත් ඇත්තටම මේ ශ්‍රම බලකායට අයත් වෙලා නැහැ. ඒත් එකම අනිත් පැත්තෙන් ගත්තොත් නිදහස් වෙනද කලාපය. ගොඩක් තරුණ ළමයි නිදහස් වෙනද කලාපය තුල රැකියාවලට එනවා. ඒගොල්ලන්ට ඒවල ඇත්තටම රැකියා වලට පඩි වැටුප් මදි වෙනකොට ඒගොල්ලන් ගොඩක් වෙලාවට ලිංගික වෘත්තියේ යෙදෙන්න පෙළඹෙනවා. මොකද දැන් ලංකාව තුල ඇත්තටම ස්පා සෙන්ටර්ස් ගොඩක් වැඩි වෙලා තියෙනවා. එතකොට ඒගොල්ලන් එතනිනුත් තල්ලු වෙලා ආපහු යන්නේ විදේශ රැකියාවකට. එතනදී ඒගොල්ලන්ට ඇත්තටම කලාපය ඇතුලේ ඇඳුමක් මැහුවට කලාපය ඇතුලේ මැෂින් එක වැඩ කෙරුවට ඒගොල්ලන්ට ගෘහ සේවිකාවක් වශයෙන් යන්න හැකියාවක් ගොඩක් වෙලාවට නැහැ. ඉතින් ඒ තත්වයේ උඩ එතකොට කොහොමද මේ තරුණ කාන්තාවන්ව ඇත්තටම සමාජ ආර්ථික සහ දේශපාලනික වශයෙන් ස්කිල්ස් ඩෙවලොප්මන්ට් කරලා ගෘහ සේවයට වඩා උසස් රැකියාවලට යැවීම මම හිතන්නේ ඒක අපේ වගකීමක්. මම හිතන්නේ ඇත්තටම සිවිල් සමාජය හැටියට අපිත් කාලයක් පුරා මේ කාර්යයට අපි දායකත්වය දෙනවා. ඉතින් අපි ඇත්තටම පවතින රජයකට විතරක්ම කියන්නත් බෑ. ඒ දැන් අපිට ජාතික ප්‍රතිපත්තියක් තියෙනවා. නැෂනල් පොලිසි එකක්. ඒකේ ඇක්ෂන් ප්ලෑන් හදලා තියෙනවා. මම හිතන්නේ මම දන්න කාලේ ඉඳලා මිසිස් රත්නායක, මිසිස් ශ්‍රියානි, එතකොට ડોક્ટર නිෂා අරුණතිලක IPS එක හරහා නොයෙකුත් සමීක්ෂණ කරමින් ඒ වගේම ওই ජාතික ප්‍රතිපත්තිය ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න අපි ඇතුළුව සියලු දෙනාම වෙහෙස මහන්සි වෙනවා. හැබැයි අපිට මේ පවතින දේශපාලන රටාවත් එක්ක ලංකාවේ වෙනස් වෙන දේශපාලනික තත්ත්වය එක්ක අපිට සංක්‍රමණික මේ වගේ ස්කිල්ස් ඩෙවලොප් කරලා ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ වෘත්තීය ගොඩක් වෙලාවට ඉහළ නංවලා ඒගොල්ලන්ට නිපුණතා සහිත රැකියාව ලබා දෙන්න අපිට පෙළඹෙන්න ක්‍රමවේදය ඉහළට ගෙනියන්න බැරි එතන ગેප් එකක් තියෙනවා. මොකෝ ඒක දේශපාලනික වශයෙන් ඒකට ඇති වෙන බලපෑම් මත. ඉතින් රජයේ නිලධාරීන් උනාට ඒගොල්ලන්ටමත් අපිට ඇඟිල්ල දික් කරන්න බැරි අවස්ථා තියෙනවා. මම හිතන්නේ ඒ සඳහා ILO, IOM, SDC ප්‍රතිපාදන දායකත්වයේ ගොඩක් වෙලාවට සපයනවා. ඉතින් ඒක කොහොමද අපි ඇත්තටම ස්කිල්ස් ඩෙවලොප්මන්ට් කරන්න කොහොමද අපි මේ කාන්තාවන්ව ස්කිල් ඩෙවලොප් කරලා හොඳ රැකියාවලට යවන්නේ? උදාහරණයක් වශයෙන් ගත්තොත් පිලිපීනය වගේ රටවල්. ඉතින් මම හිතන්නේ මේ අපි සියලු දෙනාගේම සමාජ වගකීමක් ඇත්තටම මේ වගේ මේක ඉදිරියට ගෙනියන්න. ඉතින් සිවිල් සමාජයේ හැටියට අපි තුඟක් උත්සාහ කරනවා. ඒ ગેප්ස් තියෙන්නේ කොතනද? කොහොමද අපි මේ ગેප්ස් වලට දායකත්වය දෙන්නේ? කොහොමද අපේ සහයෝගය ලබා දෙන්නේ කියලා. ඉතින් කාන්තාවන්ට ඇත්තටම කාන්තාවන්ට රැකියාවක් කිරීමේ අයිතිය තියෙනවා. දැන් මේ චේතනා මිස් කිව්වා අම්මා රට යනවා. අවුරුදු 5ට අඩු දරුවෝ ඉන්න අම්මලාට රට යන්න එපා කියලා කියනවා. මම හිතන්නේ අපි කාන්තා සංවිධානවල කාන්තා අයිතිවාසිකම් ගැන කතා කරන හන්දම නෙවෙයි. ගොඩක් වෙලාවට අපි වර්තමානයේ දකිනවා තරුණ කාන්තාවන් ඇත්තටම හොඳට ඉගෙන ගන්නවා. ඉගෙන ගලා විවාහ ජීවිතයට ඇතුළු වුණාම පළවෙනි බබා හම්බෙනකොට ඒගොල්ලන් රැකියාවෙන් අයින් වෙනවා. ඊට පසු කාලයක් වෙනකොට තමන්ගේ ස්වයං පුරුෂයා තමා අත්හැර ගියා නම් ලෙඩක් දුකක් අසනීපයක් හැදුනා නම් එතකොට යම් ප්‍රශ්නයක් පවුල තුළ මතුවුණා නම් එතකොට එයාගෙන් අයින් වෙන්න සිද්ධ වුණා නම් හැබැයි දරුවොත් එක්ක මේ කාන්තාව ඇත්තටම ජීවත් වෙන්න ඕනේ. එතකොට කොහොමද එයා ජීවත් වෙන්නේ? එතකොට ආපහුත් අර අම්මලාට තමයි ඒ බර යන්නේ. ඉතින් මං හිතන්නේ ඒ වගේ දේවල් ගැන ඇත්තටම අපි වැඩි අවධානයක් තියෙන්න ඕන. ඒත් එක්කම මේ පොලිසි ප්‍රතිපත්ති සකස් කරනකොට ස්ත්‍රී පුරුෂ සමාජමාවයේ මත පදනම් වුණු කාන්තාවන්ට සංවේදී වූ ප්‍රතිපත්ති නීති සකස් කරන්න ඇත්තටම මං හිතන්නේ පෙළඹෙන්න ඕනේ. මං හිතන්නේ ඒක හුඟක් අඩුයි. මොකද පීතෘ මූලික සමාජයක් සදාචාරයේ සංස්කෘතියට අනුව අපේ ලංකාව තුල තියෙන නිසා. ඉතින් මගේ අත්දැකීමට අනුව අනිත් එක තමයි ප්‍රජා මට්ටමේ ගොඩක් ඉන්නවා. පහුගිය කාලේ අපි වැඩ කරනකොට අපිට හම්බුණා migrant family වල තරුණ ළමයි අවුරුදු 18ත් 30ත් අතර. අම්මා රට ගිහිල්ලා තාත්තා රට ගිහිල්ලා විශ්වවිද්‍යාලවලත් ඉන්නවා. අනිත් එක ඒගොල්ලන් ඇත්තටම හුදකලයි. ඒ පවුල් ඒ ළමයි. ඉතින් එතකොට කොහොමද ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ ස්කිල්ස් ඩෙවලොප්මන්ට් කරලා ඒගොල්ලන්ට දායකත්වය දෙන්නේ? අපි ඒගොල්ලන්ට නගා සිටින්න. ඉතින් මේකේ පැති කීපයක් තියෙනවා කියලා ඇත්තටම මම දකිනවා. ඉතින් ඒ සියලුම දේ කිරීම සඳහා අපිට පොලිසි තියෙනවා ලංකාවේ ගත්තොත්, අපිට නීති තියෙනවා, අපිට හොඳ පරිසරයක් නිර්මාණය වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් මේවා ඉදිරියට ගෙනියන්න ඉතාමත් හොඳ ශක්තිමත් කාන්තාවන් නිපුණතා වලින් ස්කිල්ස් වලින් ඩෙවලොප්මන්ට් වුණු කාන්තාවන් මීට වග්‍රසේවයට වඩා උසස් රැකියාව සඳහා යවන්න අපි කොහොමද මේ විධිමත් යාන්ත්‍රණය ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්නේ? කොහොමද අපි ඒ කල්ටියේ කාන්තාවන්ගේ අයිතිවාසිකම් ආරක්ෂා කරන්නේ? ඒවා ආරක්ෂා කරන්න අපි මොනවද ජාත්‍යන්තරේ කරන්න ඕනේ? දැන් අපි ගත්තොත් එක්සත් ජාතීන්ගේ සංවිධානයේ තියෙන බලාත්මක මාවට පත් කරලා තියෙන සංක්‍රමණික සේවකින් සඳහා ඔවුන්ගේ පවුල සම්මුතිය. ඒ සම්මුතියට ඇත්තටම අත්සන් කරලා තියෙන්නේ ආසියාවේ රටවල් කීපයක් විතරයි. හැබැයි මේ sending countries විතරයි. එතකොට receiving countries ඒකට අත්සන් කරලා නැහැ. එතකොට අපිට වගකීමක් තියෙනවා අපිට වගේම රජයට වගේම උන්මහත් සමාජයටම මේකට ලොකු බලපෑම් ක්‍රියාවලියක් ගෙනින්න. ඒතකොට අපි GCM කතා කරනවා, අපි high level dialogue කතා කරනවා, අපි කොලම්බෝ process කතා කරනවා. එතකොට අපි කොහොමද මේ වගේ දේවල් ජාත්‍යන්තරව අපේ නීතිවලට ඇතුළත් කර ගැනීම සඳහා අපේ සංක්‍රමණික සේවකීන්ට ආරක්ෂාව ලබා දීම සඳහා කටයුතු කරන්න කියන එක ගැන දැඩි අවධානයක් යොමු කරන්න ඕනේ. ඉතින් ස්කිල්ස් ඩෙවලොප්මන්ට් කරන්නත් මේ වගේ දේවල් ඔක්කොම ආරක්ෂා කරලා ඕනේ මම හිතන්නේ. ඒ වගේ නිපුණතා හැබි කාන්තාවන් යවට.
Thank you, Ms. Wala, for that comprehensive insights. Very important point which she added was this unpaid care work. of females. And in fact, ILO had did a wonderful study on this unpaid care work, which was very interesting to see because it puts burden on females, which restricts their involvement in formal work in the country, and also how informal work is not formalized in this country. And Ms. Wala, as you said, I think this economic crisis is also a reason for many of these workers to leave the country. And even though they have the necessary skills, we spoke about brain drain, but something which we are also missing is the brain waste. I think this is where we also come in, where we have people with the necessary skills and qualification. Unfortunately, they go for different jobs because, of course, for different reasons. Because sometimes they want to leave the country because it is their last resort. It's not that they want to, but it is their last resort. Just to wrap up this panel discussion as well, I would like to thank the panelists and to pick up from what they all said. This SLMP has given us the forum of bringing all of us together. When I joined the IOM, actually, I walked into this SLMP project, and IOM was very much involved, and this was a time where we even partnered up with ILO on this initiative. And when I came into this project, I saw so many stakeholders. I had a different background, but I came into migration and I saw this, and this was the first time, like in this sector, I saw so many stakeholders from different grassroots level to the national level coming together, talking about this, having a great impact. And it is so nice to see all of us back here at this event closure. But now we have a national policy in place. And we were all part of this national policy development. In fact, in all of these policy areas, each and every one of us were included in all the discussions in this policy making. And this is where we are now. It's time for us to implement it and take it forward. And thank you so much, panelists, and thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much to our panelists and also to our moderator, Ms. Amrita Muttaya, for that very thought-provoking discussion. I'm sure that the experiences as well as the lessons shared today will help us shape the future of migrant worker welfare. Ladies and gentlemen, as we're now approaching the conclusion of today's proceedings, we would now like to take a moment to mark the official closure of the Safe Labour Migration Program. As we've heard today, this program has been a significant initiative and a testament to the strong partnership and collaboration between the government of Sri Lanka and the government of Switzerland. And today, as we celebrate these achievements, we would now like to officially hand over the outcomes of this program from one government to the other. To now begin this segment of the formal closure and handing over, I would now like to invite on stage Ambassador Christian Frutiger, Vice Director General and Head of Thematic Cooperation Division at the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, to join us and formally hand over the program outcomes to the government of Sri Lanka. Let's put our hands together for Ambassador Christian Frutiger.
Thank you very much. Oh, what a moment. Excellencies, dear friends, this concludes the Swiss Development Agency's part in the transformational journey on safe labor migration in Sri Lanka. I am really happy to be able to hand over the program to the Sri Lankan government, and I'm also very happy for the commitment the government has made to take it forward. Our moderator put it very eloquently early this morning. Sustainable and compassionate solutions have transformed the lives of migrants and boosted their economic impact on society. This is a moment to celebrate and to thank the Sri Lankan government, the ILO, and all our other partners, and the Swiss Embassy and the team around Rangita Balasuria, and of course last, but actually first and foremost, the extraordinary people of Sri Lanka and particularly the migrant workers. Your testimonies have been outstanding and moving, and they've shown how far we have come and how far we can still go. Today we have looked back. Tomorrow we will look into the future for future successes. So a big thanks to each and every one of you, and we are looking forward to these future results, and we are looking forward to the future collaborations and partnerships. Thank you very much.